But this water heater is a few years old, and you can see, I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of dump it out on the floor here, that there is a little bit of sediment. Hey guys, it's Handy Jeff, and if you could do something to your water heater that's super simple, that would make it last an extra 5 years, would you do it? Well, I'll tell you what, it's in the maintenance schedule, and we're kind of doing a series on forgotten home maintenance items. So today, I'm going to teach you what you can do to one of your tank water heaters to make it last longer, and you're actually supposed to do this. So stick around, and I'll teach you exactly what to do. Of course, I am talking about a tank water heater. It doesn't matter if it's a power vent, a regular gas, or if it's electric. The important thing is that you need to flush your water heater. And I'm going to teach you exactly how to do that. Depending on the make and model of your water heater, you're going to need a couple tools. So you're going to need a screwdriver on this one. Doesn't hurt to have a pair of channel locks. And of course, you're going to need a hose because you're going to need to flush the hot water someplace. Okay, so step one, if you have a gas water heater, is to shut your gas valve off so that the water heater isn't going to fire when there's no water inside of it. On this one, all you do is slide it to off. On other ones, you may have to turn it to pilot or just cut the gas off and then relight it later on. But this one's pretty simple. You just switch it to off. Now, I do not have an electric water heater, but if you do, go shut the breaker off. So that way it's not firing with no water in it, because that will for sure ruin all of the electronics and your elements. The next step after you've shut your gas or your electricity off is to come up and shut off your feed line, which you can tell if it's on your feed line by looking down, and you'll see either a C or in this one it says cold. If it's on the hot side, go shut your water main off. Mine is right over here, and this is what it looks like. All right, I apologize for the noise in the background. I've got my washing machine running. But have you ever stuck a straw into a glass of water, stuck your finger over the end and pulled it out of the water and realized the water doesn't drain? So that is exactly what's going to happen to your water heater. So we need to find a way to make it breathe. In order to do that, you're going to come up to a faucet. This is my kitchen faucet. And what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and crank on the hot water side and let that water go ahead and drain out. There you have it. Once the water stops, that means you have no pressure on your hot water lines. So now you can drain down your tank. So essentially the whole point of this is we are going to drain the sediment that's out of the tank. Now, you have to stir up the sediment in order to get it to come out. So the best way to do that is to drain your entire water tank, and then we're going to flush it by turning the valves on very quickly, you know, kind of bumping them on and off, and that should stir up the sediment and allow it to come out. So we have to drain our water tank. In order to do that, we're going to take a hose, go ahead and screw it on here. I luckily have one of these hoses that has a valve on the end here, so I can go ahead and open this. But basically what you're going to want to do is take the end of your hose and go put it into something that's going to drain. That could be a floor drain, that could be a toilet. I'm actually going to have to use this old macerator toilet in a bathroom I'm working on tearing out because I don't have a floor drain. So I'm going to run the hose over to there. All right, once you've got your hose where you want it to be, which this is where I want mine to be, I'm going to go ahead and crank open my valve. There's just a little bit of something in there. I'm going to go ahead and shove that down in the toilet because this thing hasn't been used in a long time. Then we got to go back over to the water heater. Once we are at your water heater, this is your drain. There's many different types. This one just uses a screwdriver. Some of them will have a knob that you can turn. Some will have to be turned by using channel locks. But regardless, whatever way you need to do it, we're going to go ahead and open this thing up. Now remember, our kitchen sink or your vanity faucet, just a faucet of some kind, is open on the hot side. So this is going to allow water to drain out very, very quickly instead of having to wait for a very long time. All right, so what we have here is the hot water is draining, so we're gonna let that go ahead and drain. This can take some time, so go ahead and get comfortable. All right, here's a little hack. So after your water heater's been running for a while and draining for a while, something you can do is go ahead and open up your blow-off valve, because that's going to allow a lot more air to get in. So in order to do that, basically all you got to do is pull on this, hold it open. There might be a little bit of water that comes out, but that's okay. Oh, well, hello there, little friend. That's not terrifying. All right, so because this is going to take so much time, I'm actually going to have to leave the house because I have to go to work. However, you don't have to do that. Once it's finished draining, we'll move on to the next step. And because of the magic of the internet, when I come back tomorrow, you won't even know it's tomorrow. And we're back. But as you can see, I was told there was a floor drain down there underneath this bathroom that I'm tearing out. And that's not the case. But that's okay. Hopefully yours won't look like this. And it all went into the drain. But what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to disconnect my hose because I'm going to blow water into a bucket so that we can see if there's any sediment inside this water heater. All right, we're going to grab a bucket and we're just going to place it like so. Now, this is still open. And what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to just turn the valve on and off very quickly a few times to allow the sediment, if there is any, to get stirred up inside there. Now, if you didn't know, this is your cold water line. It comes down and there's actually a tube that comes all the way down here. And when you fill water, it fills from the bottom. That is so that when you've got hot water all the way up here, you're not just putting cold water in where it's going to be taken out. So let's see if we can get any sediment out of here. I'm going to just, basically what I'm going to do is just grab this and go like that a few times, but I'm going to leave it on longer than that. So let's see if we get any sediment. Now it doesn't appear that we're going to get any sediment, but what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and close that off with our screwdriver and then go ahead and continue to fill like I was just doing. All right, let's dump this bucket out into the toilet, and I'm going to go ahead and run some water in to stir up any sediment that could be in there. All right, so I don't have the most clean bucket, but this water heater is a few years old, and you can see, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of dump it out on the floor here, that there is a little bit of sediment that came out. So I'm going to go ahead and rinse this out, and then we're going to fill it back up and see if there's more. All right. Just so you can see that I am cleaning the bucket. All right, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and crank this on a couple times. Basically, this is just to stir that sediment up if there's some inside of it. Now I'm going to leave it on. I'm going to come down here. I'm going to go ahead and crack open the valve here. Oh yeah. Go ahead and shut the water off. And we're going to finish opening this bad boy up because it's only part of the way open right now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to let this drain down, and we're going to do the same thing, just kind of take a look. And this you don't have to do to see if there's sediment inside of it. This is more for me to show you guys the stuff that can be inside your water heater. This is a fairly new water heater. I believe it was put in 2019, which if that's the case, there probably isn't a ton of sediment in here because I haven't lived in this property for 5 years as well. So it hasn't been used for a very long time. But as you can see, we're going to go ahead and run this thing down, let as much water come out as we can. All right, that's good enough. I'm going to shut that off. Now we're going to go dump this into the toilet, see if there's any extra sediment that came out. But then we're going to go ahead and drain our water heater for a while, flush it, and allow it to go into this toilet here. So all in one cut. so you know I'm not playing around. We're running that down, running it down, running it down. All right, now that we're down to the bottom of the bucket, let's go check out underneath some light, see if we've got any sediment in here. So it does appear that there's some. You can kind of see down at the bottom here. Let me go dump just a hair more of this out. I apologize, but I'm trying to do this all in one cut so you can really see the sediment that's in there. All right, let's hope it all didn't get washed out. Back to the light. And you can kind of see there's some in there. Let's see if I can get it on my hand here. It's just really fine, like sand. You can kind of see a couple specks of dirt there. And you can see that the water itself is a little bit dark colored. So we're gonna go ahead and flush this thing. So in order to do that, just like before, we're gonna put our hose on. Then we're gonna take our hose off of this little guy here. And then we're gonna run our hose over here to our toilet. And put it in there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and crank open the water and the valve, and I'm gonna flush it for about, let's say 5 minutes. Now there will be quite a bit of water that's gonna come through here, probably a couple 100 gallons, but you know what? That's okay, because we wanna make sure that this baby's flushed out. Because like I said, nobody does this. So if your water heater's a lot older, chances are you're gonna have a lot of sediment in it. All right, so we are still flushing this bad boy. But as you can tell, we're getting quite a bit of volume of water, so that way, if there was stuff inside of it, it's gonna be flushed out, which is the important part. So this is about the 4th tank that is in my macerator pump, which is right behind this toilet. So in reality, that's probably about 40 gallons. I'm gonna call that good on the next run, but then I'll show you how to wake your system back up so that way you can have hot water again. All right, you're gonna come over, you're gonna stop your drain, you're gonna allow your water heater to continue to fill up. All right, so the next step that we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna shut the water off the drain, unhook our hose, and now if you remember right, we should still have our faucet open upstairs. So we're gonna go ahead and crank this baby on and run upstairs to that faucet and hang out until water comes out of it. Now you're probably gonna get some air, so don't freak out if you get some air. But go ahead and open that valve up and run to your faucet. And hey, would you look at that? Once you've got water, shut your hot water off and go back down to the water heater. Okay guys, the next step is to turn your water heater back on. You may have to push a button on your pilot and click it. You may have to hold the pilot light down and light it using a match through here. But on this particular power vent, all I have to do is click that on button, and then it will go ahead and fire up here in just a couple minutes. Now, there we go. I'm gonna have hot water here in about 45 minutes. Now, today, if you learned something, like I said, no homeowner does this, and it can extend the life of your water heater by 10 years, maybe even more. I've even seen water heaters from the 60s when I was a service plumber. So that can really, really save you some coin in the long run. You know, this power vent, it's a propane model, and honestly, it costs probably close to $14.50 if I were to buy it even with my supply house pricing. So if you learned something today, hit a like, subscribe to learn more, and drop something in the comments, because that helps push this video to a lot more people. This has been Handy Jeff, and once again, thank you so much for watching.